All right, welcome to this installment of Life on the Streets. It's the greatest show on earth with your host, Rick,
And Tom.
brought to you by ADB Training. We have a special guest for you today, and we'll introduce her here in just a second. But before we get started, as always, I have a question for you, Tom.
No, of course you do.
So, based on your life and career and everything that you've done, name three smells you can never unsmell.
Oh, three smells I can never unsmell. CS gas.
CS gas, okay.
Yeah. Always know what that is if I smell it. Um, the smell of feet and ass in a barracks.
So only when it's in a barracks? So everywhere
Well,
else it's okay?
no, I mean, there's places that it happens too, like, locker rooms and all that kind of stuff. It's like you walk in there and you're like, smells like feet and ass in here. Like,
That's a convention,
do these people not wash?
right?
You know?
That's a convention of foot and ass.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I think it's a convention if it'd be one more thing, you know.
Is there a rule that says
I
what
don't
a
know. Three or
convention is?
more is a convention. Maybe. I don't know.
No,
Um,
three or more is a
what would the third be?
what would the
Um,
third be?
let's see. Green bell peppers.
Green bell
Yeah.
peppers.
So you're taking it from life experience, right? Not everything that I've done and whatnot. But like my mom used to make, and God forbid she ever sees this podcast. When I was a kid, she would make this meatloaf and load it with green bell peppers. And to this day, I can't stand the taste or the smell of green bell peppers.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that bell peppers.
I have PTS from that.
I didn't.
That's
Well, you're gonna love this episode,
I have
but
PTS from that.
I didn't know bell peppers had a smell.
They do.
No.
Yes, they absolutely have a smell.
So let me give you my three.
Oh God. What are your
Okay.
three?
Three of them. Well, one is you already hit on it, the smell of foot and ass, right?
Right.
So there's one.
Yeah. Nobody likes that.
Nobody likes
Nobody likes that.
nobody likes that.
Take a bath.
Um, BO, like I'm talking non ever taking a shower BO. I just can't do it. Yeah,
Okay.
you know.
I feel like that falls in the same along the same lines as feet and ass.
No, they're different glands.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'm
I guess
thinking.
that. So then that would be a convention. The BO, the
Oh,
feet, and the ass.
oh, okay. So that
That's now we got a convention.
so that's a convention.
All right, we
Got
got a
it.
convention at that point.
And then I think my third one, I honestly would have to say is like putrid marijuana.
Like bad weed,
Yeah, bad weed.
like
Is
ditch
there
weed, not good weed, but like ditch weed.
ditch weed? Yes.
I got okay, gotcha. Yeah, I don't like to smell ditch weed either.
Ditch weed.
Like skunk weed, the
Skunk weed and
bad.
ditch weed.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's bad.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
So
good weed smells good. It
no,
does.
I
I'm just
just
saying.
can't. I can't. I've
I-
never. And
Well,
also,
prior to law enforcement, I was a stoner, but
that doesn't shock me.
hey, everybody had to do something in high school.
The good thing is
Skateboarded,
you're
surfed,
proving all the,
you know.
you're proving all the medical data that there are consequences.
There are consequences to one's actions.
You end up like you.
Kids don't do drugs.
You end up like this.
It will fry brain cells.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we have a special guest today. And when I say special, I mean special because I'm not going to brag, but I will. And our next guest is somebody who is near and dear to me. This is Sara. Sara, introduce yourself.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute for a second. Hi, yeah, I'm Sarah. I'm a clinical mental health counselor, and I'm also Rick's daughter. Yeah, woo-woo. So
Woo-hoo.
And
yeah,
now
glad to be
everybody
here.
knows why you went into mental health.
Right, I know, right? It's 100% accurate. Yeah, I'm
So,
glad to be here. Glad to be here.
so yeah, I'm glad to have you. we're going to have a good conversation today. So you're a mental health counselor, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And very familiar with first responders.
Yeah, I was raised by a SWAT team.
So, so, so let's just kind of jump into that for a second, okay?
Hmm.
So, where, what do you see with first responders? What do you think is most important for us to understand about mental health, and the stuff, especially the stuff that you cover?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is just that it's a traumatic job, right? That there's a guarantee of trauma in that situation. You're seeing things that the the average brain shouldn't be able to process. And so I think it's just really important to prioritize mental health because, I mean, there's a fantastic book called The Body Keeps Score, where basically it's just the understanding that we don't have control of how trauma affects the body or the mind. And so being on top of those things with your mental health can help prevent some of the horror stories we've heard about people, veterans and first responders later in life, related to PTSD, higher rates of suicide, things like that.
So when you say stay on top of this, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? I mean, what does that kind of include? Because I mean, staying on top of it to me means one thing, and I'm sure it probably
Mm-hmm.
means something to you, different to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what does that
Yeah.
mean for us as a whole?
Yeah, I think for like the entire industry, I think that's just being in tune with what you're needing. I think getting regular mental health services, that means probably being in regular therapy, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever that looks like. Knowing that when you've experienced a traumatic event that you can't avoid it, right? Pushing things away doesn't really work. It just kind of delays the problem for later. And so actually getting on top of it, it takes about 90 days for a traumatic event to really get stuck in your system. So if you can go into it right after, right into mental health services, working on processing, some of that could be through EMDR, which we'll talk about too. But just getting mental health services of some sort while the right after a traumatic event has happened, it will help prevent a lot of PTSD.
Okay, so when you say that you can't get rid of it, I mean, Tom and I, seem to do a very good job. I mean, of getting rid of it
Gone.
Oh yeah, I'll
out there.
pretend to believe that. Um, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that you can't get rid of it. I would say it becomes a lot more challenging to get rid of it, right? After those 90 days, that's where we see it become stuck. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't get rid of it or process it. That's kind of what we do, right? That's why I have a whole field. Um, and so I think it's just being kind of smart, right? It's being smart about your mental health, trying to be ahead of it. Now, I mean, when I look at you two, right? But you guys also were in a different generation than this current generation, right? So
But
mental health has shifted a lot in the last 30 years, even. The last 100 years has been significant, but the last 30 specifically have been even more significant. So I think just the stigmatization around mental health has changed and shifted.
So kind of shifted from generation to generation, being like our generation was like, if you're going to go see a therapist, something's wrong with you,
Yep,
you know,
100%.
or you feel like you're becoming weak or something along those lines, where
Yeah,
now it's getting to be more mainstream and more accepted
yes.
by people, right?
it's
100%, yes. And I would say too, I think part of your field and even deeper. So yes, we're generationally, but I think even within the field of first responders, I think for a long time, mental health services was almost felt risky. Like you would get maybe a diagnosis or something that could prevent you from succeeding in your career, in
Mhm.
that in some way. And I think that we just have a lot more research and knowledge on mental health as a whole, now, and a lot more kind of laws and things put in place. But you know, I think it's just easier. One, accessibility is easier now. We have telehealth services. We have a way more clinicians than we've ever had before. We're still short, but we have more than ever. And those are things that you guys did not actually have access to as much when you were coming up in the field.
so. Do you think that, given the changes that you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you think that we're making an improvement, or I mean, because right now one of the big topics, I mean, and it's one of the primary conversations in society right now, right, is mental health of our military and our first responders, and
Hmm.
it seems to have come to the forefront. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah.
So why is it now coming to the forefront where it looks like we have a bigger problem? Because they're talking about, uh, military and first responder suicides are like at an all-time high.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the like all the answers to that. I don't know necessarily why things have shifted now. I think there probably could be multiple factors in that. I'm sure the world of technology these days has a big impact on that, right? Access to knowledge that people didn't have before, right? So when you are online and you scrolling and you see somebody say, "Well, this is what my experience is," gives you knowledge that you didn't have maybe 30 years ago when you didn't have access to that much
so,
stuff.
so do you think that social media plays a role in the increase in mental health issues?
I 100% believe that. Yes, I think it does. I think for multiple reasons. That's a very layered question. Yes, for multiple reasons. I think for people to become more knowledgeable, but sometimes that's incorrect knowledge, right? It's kind of like if you were to Google, like, oh, what are these symptoms? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm dying of this rare disease. When in all reality, maybe you just have a cold, right?
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like we have an overflow of information that maybe isn't always correct, but we assume it is. And so comparison too, right? So comparison of people's stories, people's experiences, that can be something that impacts. If you're reading a story about somebody who maybe is bipolar, and you see, oh wait, I experienced that one time too, and you can say, oh, maybe now I'm bipolar, right? There's that. It's easy to fall into that trap, which isn't always necessarily the case.
Okay. So do you ever do the Google on
The Google.
On what I have?
what you have?
No,
Never,
no,
ever.
no.
Okay.
Do you?
I'm not a
Do
freaking
I?
doctor.
Well,
Yeah,
I Google everything
me too.
because I'm always looking to see if I'm in there with all
Yeah,
of my weird stuff.
no shit. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's not trying to figure out what you have. It's that if you're in the book.
The book.
Mhm.
Hey, I've had papers written about me, like
I know.
academic papers.
Mm.
You
Got that
know?
African penguin disease.
The other thing that's coming to mind as you asked that question was kind of about like the trends of mental health, right? So,
Okay.
especially in the younger generations, mental health has almost become cool in some ways. There's been themes of like, ADHD being a huge one, depression. I mean, pretty common things in the younger generations, but just kind of like um, glamorizing them or romanticizing them in some ways, which I would say that majority of the population has at least some form of mental health, something going on. Now, is that everybody? No, of course not. That's not realistic, but a good majority, I would say, has experienced some form of mental health.
Well, that's an interesting comment that you just made because I'm I think we both I think we can everybody can say, at least I know we've seen the glamorization of PTSD in
Uh-huh.
younger cops where it becomes a badge of honor. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Where to be able to say, well, yeah, I have PTSD, because that kind of gives me the I've been there, done that. I got the T-shirt. I've done things, and if I don't say I have PTSD, then people don't think I've ever done anything in my life,
Mhm.
um, and I think that does a disservice to the people who are really suffering that. And that's not to say that they don't, to some degree, maybe have something going on. But I've seen it in officers with a year on, and where they want to have they so badly want to have it,
Mhm.
so that they can tell people they have it. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of it, yeah. And I have to agree with you on that. I think it is just one of those things. But the flip side of that is look where this generation's coming from
Mhm.
that are coming in to be cops.
No, that's
What
true. Yeah.
experience do they have prior to getting into law enforcement?
No,
You
I
know, I
agree with
mean,
you.
and so if it's something that is if it's a significantly different experience than they've previously had in their life, then yeah, I could see where that trauma would come into
Actually,
play.
that
But
make that makes a lot of sense. And coming
but
from you, it's shocking,
I
but it
know it
makes a
is.
lot of
I
sense.
actually have
Yeah.
some thoughts on this. I kind of going back to what I said in the beginning about like we don't really have choice over trauma. And so I think I hear you. I think there's two things can be true at once, right? I say this a lot. Two things can be true at once. That yes, there's kind of maybe this cultural badge of honor situation going on in the industry of like, oh, having PTSD means that like I've seen some shit or whatever, right? And I mean, trauma is not choosable. You can't choose how trauma affects you. You can't choose the way what trauma what exactly is trauma, right? So in the field we'll say a lot like in the EMDR space, like kind of small t traumas versus big t traumas. I mean, small t traumas actually can affect a whole lot, and those things can be as simple as maybe somebody rejected you, right? That can be a small t trauma, whereas a big t trauma, as we know, we can all identify what a big t trauma is, right? Maybe that's getting shot or something in that space. But the small t traumas can also really affect the mind and the body. And I think that each individual's experience is very different. And now their knowledge about things, right? That's where prioritizing your mental health is important. I guess that's what it comes back to. Anybody can say they have PTSD and maybe they do. Now, how are we going to go about it? That's kind of the difference, I think, in or the important part of discussing it.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, so
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to really think about it too, dude. Like, I would say that there's certain things that we've experienced over the years that really didn't have as much effect on, that were bigger things
yeah,
that
yeah.
I would say had less effect on us than
The smaller
smaller
stuff.
things.
Yeah, I would agree with
You
that.
know, like
Mhm.
there's smaller shit that I've had more of a problem with than
The
like
bigger
the
stuff.
bigger stuff,
Well, and I think that
you know?
why I think that
So I think
happens
it's
was is for me, and I can't speak for you, but I think the smaller stuff we're more able to identify. The big
Mhm.
stuff we don't have time to let it impact us. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you're constantly making rapid sequence decisions, and you don't have time to actually focus on what this really means or what the impact is or what the trauma is, how bad it is. We just kind of go through, we do what we do, right? We do what we've trained to do, and you don't really have time to really process that. Now, I don't know. I mean, do we process it later worse than we did? I don't know, but I think for the smaller T's, the little T's,
Mhm.
low T's like you, no.
Mhm.
haha,
Uh, so
haha, so
we,
funny.
yeah, I know. So but I think we can get more engrossed in. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as you were talking, kind of what I was thinking about was also just like, so there's this idea of like core belief system, right? So we have these beliefs that are ingrained into our system at a really young age. This happens usually before about 10 years old. And those things can get triggered later in life. Right. So that's actually like the things that we would target in therapy. But basically, like core beliefs of I'm not enough or I am unsafe. I can't control this. Right. And so then when those things from when we're really, really young children get triggered, that can be really hard to manage. So when you're saying small t traumas, I can imagine that maybe some of the reasons why those small t traumas stick so much harder for you is because it's triggered something from your childhood. We say a lot in the EMDR world, the past is in the present. It gets stuck there, right?
Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. So when we looked at the stuff that you do, you talk about logical healing versus emotional healing. What does that
Mm.
mean?
Yeah, head versus heart, right? So when you go to the doctor and they say you have a broken arm and they say, here you go, fix that with this, it's logical healing, right? Emotional healing is much more challenging than that. That's mental health is emotional healing. Sitting in emotions, being going the deeper level, not just problem solving, right? A lot of people come into a therapy room and saying, this, and this is wrong. What's the magic pill, right? Or what's the quick fix? What can I do? What's the exercise I can do? What's the homework I can do? And oftentimes, all of those things are great tools. Sure, we'd love to give those out to people. And emotional healing, heart healing actually comes from sitting in that, processing it deeply, not avoiding it, right? A lot of people like to avoid all of the things. Ooh, it feels icky. I don't like it. Go away. But rather, what we try and do is to make you sit in it. And there's actually a really great analogy I heard from a supervisor once about buffalo, where buffalo typically, when there's a huge storm, coming their way, and all the other animals will run, away from the storm. Buffalo actually run through the storm, and they have significantly less deaths from these huge storms because they kind of just push through. They push through the hard part, they push through it, and they get to the other side. And that's kind of similar to what I feel like emotional healing is like. It's not fun, it's not easy, but we're not avoiding it. We're going through the storm.
Okay. So I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Charge through the storm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Push forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, so when we talk about pushing forward, so that there's this, I think we've seen it in what we do. And you especially see it in like, smaller units, specialized units and stuff like that. There's that mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you just push forward.
Yeah.
You just keep pushing. So, but how are those different if we're just pushing forward?
Mm. Well, I mean, it's also important to note that healing is not linear. Okay, so I say this a lot to my clients of, some days you're going to feel great, and then other days you're going to feel like the world's crashing down, and that's just part of the human experience, right? What we can do is help to build your system to help regulate yourself better, right? So rather than we're learning the skills to sit in emotion, process it, and file it away, rather than to say, oh no, this is hard, I'm maybe going to drink these problems away, or I'm going to eat my problems away, or run away, or yeah, called you out there, right? No. I think that there's just an important skill in doing mental health work, like trauma work specifically, in learning how to emotionally regulate yourself so that things don't affect you so negatively, so you can manage mental health symptoms. Does that make sense?
That
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so kind of going back to the core belief thing, do you think that there's an aspect of not only things that happen in your childhood that can be triggered by trauma in adult life, but realistically, just like the core beliefs that you grew up with? Like,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, having a father that says, "Hey, suck it up, buttercup, move forward, let's go,
Yep.
keep going."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got a problem, push through it, push through the problem,
Yeah.
or
What
whatever.
do you think the core belief that instilled in you if you had that father? What would that make you believe about yourself?
Uh, that I could push through anything.
Mm. Okay, so that's positive, right? What about the negative core belief? So the ideas around, well, because when that happens, right? There's things that if that creates triggers later in life, right? What we really want to focus in on in the core beliefs, right, is that there's negative core beliefs that gets instilled in us. So I can imagine in that situation feeling like I'm not allowed to feel emotion.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to feel emotion, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and so and so that's maybe the negative core belief. So then whenever maybe you do feel emotion later in life, you're like, oh God, that's bad. It's icky. I'm not supposed to do that. And that's where we want to target or heal that inner core belief and shift it to something more. I can feel an appropriate amount of emotion.
That's fair.
And nobody wants to feel icky.
No,
Mm.
I don't want to
Well,
feel anything about anything.
getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you guys are used to that in the logical
Yeah.
sense. You're used to that in the physical sense. Now, how can we translate that into the emotional sense too? Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable in your emotions, in your heart space. That's a big, big thing.
I don't,
Wow.
you know,
How much are we paying for this session?
wow. We didn't tell you, but this is an intervention, buddy.
Oh, is that what this is?
We didn't tell you either, Rick.
You'd be wasting your time intervening me. No. I have
Yeah.
it all worked out. Just ask
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
So, you know, I want to take a quick moment and ask you, how do we make this better accepted
Mm,
within like first responders and military? How do we do that? I mean, I know that there's a lot of hype around getting help and doing stuff right now, but it seems like we're asking people to get help when it's become a problem instead of before it becomes a problem.
hmm I wish I had the answer to that, right? Because then I'd be that's $1 million question. I guess I have a question for you in that, right? What makes you
For
avoid
me,
going? Yeah, for both of you, probably.
okay.
For both of you,
All
yes.
right. All
What
right. Go
makes
ahead.
you avoid wanting to go get help? What has made throughout your career thinking about what has made you shy away from wanting to get mental health services?
Oh man. Well, I mean, first of all, I think for me, I think there's also that we've just that it's been installed is you just push forward,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
just deal with it. You know,
Or
Mhm.
life, you know what? Life sucks and it's not fun and you know, it's dirty and it's gritty and you just deal with it.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That or the fact that the belief that there's nothing wrong with me.
hmm
You
hmm
know,
Yeah.
that wasn't that big of a deal. I've done worse
Right.
shit or I
hmm
experienced worse stuff. That wasn't that big of a thing. So why would I need help? I don't think there's anything wrong with me.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I think we've seen that a lot. I mean, I
Hmm.
think and it's interesting that you say that because in all honesty, you and I have had several of these conversations
Hmm.
hmm
over the years. We've
Oh
had
yeah.
many of these conversations, um, and we've seen people where it's eaten them up and their career's gone, and
Hmm.
I mean,
hmm
and it's destroyed their personal life, and then then you see people that they come through this and it looks like they were never ever scathed at
Yeah.
all.
Or you
hmm
have or you have a guy that you just is like, super badass dude and something destroys him and he's the one that says, I got to get some help for this
Yeah.
and goes and gets the help and then comes back and talks about it and then goes on to be a mental health counselor.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and
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 I'm not going to name him, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do, but you
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and
I won't throw him under the bus. I
no,
wouldn't be
we
throwing him
won't
under the
throw
bus,
him
but
under the bus, but you know who he is
Mhm.
too.
I do know. I do know. Yes.
But
I have. Okay. So I think that was helpful, and it makes me want to. I'm like, here I am bringing in therapy into this. Um, I think there's an opportunity for reframing, right? So you mentioned, especially you, Dad, what you mentioned: push through, push through, push through. Kind of circling back to what I said about a few minutes ago, right?
okay, can
What
I
if we
interrupt you
re?
for 1 second,
Uh huh.
young lady? When we're
Uh
on
huh.
this show, you will refer to me as Rick.
Oh yeah. Sorry. 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 Unlearned behavior of 27 years. Okay. Yeah, so a few minutes ago, kind of what we were talking about, like that push through, right? So there's this idea of like, well, I can just push through, I can push through. And what if we reframed that into, yeah, part of pushing through is getting the help, doing the work, doing the mental work, right? That's actually pushing through. What both of you named, there's a theme there, right? The theme I noticed was denial and avoidance.
It's just not a river in Egypt.
That denial.
Mm-hmm.
It runs through it.
Rick.
Denial. Yes. That
So
was a
Okay,
no,
very
that's
I
fair.
bad
That's
job.
fair.
I
That's fair.
think I
Right?
think
Do you see that? How both of those things are in some ways avoidance and denial, right? What
Yeah.
if we reframe them to be something like, oh, me getting help is actually me doing the work for myself is actually a form of strength.
I can see it. Absolutely.
Sure.
Don't you
No,
call me out on this show. Don't you do that.
I, I think you're right. I think you're right. There is an aspect of denial and avoidance with it. But I think the The other side of it is, though, I think we can both say that we've done this, is we have sought out therapy,
Hmm.
but it's not in the context of like I don't necessarily want to say our individual problems,
Right,
right?
right.
I
But
mean,
then
because
they
we've
kind of
they
individual.
are because the problems that we have generally cause the reason that we had to go to like, couples therapy or whatever, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
which ended good because we're both still married.
Hmm.
Just so everybody knows. But it's one of those, I think it's, that
Yeah.
whatever we had going on kind of trigger the need to go
Well,
and
but that
do that,
actually, no, I love that. And I think that
you
that's
know.
a big point because, and that's one of the things you talk about is that support system. What's the impact on that support system? I mean, how is that impacting your family, right? And those
Yeah,
around you who care about you and love it. And I don't even put it back to just your family. I mean, I put it back to your friends, your
Oh yeah,
buddies. I
yeah.
mean, and how
totally.
many times have we dealt with that where we have to pull,
Pull somebody aside or
but
away
it impacts us too, right? And it
Hmm.
can actually tear a team apart. It can
Yeah,
tear if it can tear a team apart, it's can definitely tear a family apart because
right.
they're more intimate.
Well, and I think that there's as you're talking, I think the other thing is that humans are not just they're layered, right? You are all individuals with your own experiences and you're layered. Now, is your job a huge identity of yours? Of course. That's a cultural factor we have to be very aware of. And you've also lived lives before that. You've also lived lives in between that. And those are things that also probably need to be processed, identified, and looked at. And that's an individual experience. And so those things all play factors into the role of a first responder, but that's not the only role that you hold, right? And I think the other roles are maybe it's being a partner, maybe it's being a parent, maybe it's being a friend, right? A family member of some sort. And the way that you take care of yourself within, the realm of kind of looking under that umbrella of being a first responder, does impact the way that your other identities uh, work as well. And so, there is an important aspect of like, how can you take care of somebody else if you're not taking care of yourself, right? How is that possible? It's not,
Oh,
right? It's
sure.
not possible.
So I think and correct me if I'm wrong, and if but I think one of the bigger things that are is constantly overlooked in this is we focus on the first responder that's in this, right? Which is
Hmm.
important, but we overlook if I, for example, if I'm feeling stress, I'm feeling, overwhelmed, I'm having emotional issues or whatever trauma I've gone through, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think to have the presumption that your spouse or your family isn't having their own trauma
Mm,
based on that
is
is an oversight. Would you
right.
agree with that?
I
Or
100% agree with that. I mean, I can tell you as a firsthand experience, right? I won't go into details about anything, but I did not um come unscathed from the things that you experienced in your career, right? I mean, the amount of days I go, oh my God, is my dad coming home today? The amount of days that, it's like, oh my God, I get a call. I'm like, I see my phone ring at a certain time and oh crap, that's bad. Right. The days that maybe you come home from being out in the field for 24 hours straight, whatever, and you're exhausted and all I want is to play with my dad, right? Right. As a child, that does affect. Now to be the partner of somebody like that, right? To have to hold the house down, to have to be the support system, right? When they come home, to navigate that as a family member with a first responder is challenging, and I think that's just I think that's just important to name, right? I think it is challenging.
and a lot of them also work and they have their own dramas and
100%.
traumas,
Yes.
outside, just outside the house. So it's not as if that they're just waiting at the door with our
Hmm.
slippers and then,
Hmm.
so I mean, spouses, I mean, they all have jobs and, and their own lives outside of the house also going on where they have problems,
Hmm. Yeah.
and so it almost seems like who's trumps whose,
Right.
unfortunately, right?
Right. Right. Well, and I mean, okay, couples therapist hat on here, right? Relationships are challenging to begin with. Okay, right? Relationships are challenging to begin with. Now you're adding on these extra layers of identities and jobs and careers that are a little bit more intense than the average person. Then and you're including all of the trauma that comes with that. I mean, I can't imagine how challenging that would be in a relationship. I mean, you're bouncing between I like to use like numbers of like percentage, right? Because every single day, it's not 50-50. A relationship is not 50-50. That's just not accurate. That's too rigid. It shifts by day. Sometimes you might both be 10%. The next day, maybe someone's 90 and you're 5, right? Like that, it's shifting every single day.
Where does the other five go?
It doesn't exist because you're both drained.
Ah,
You
okay.
know, sometimes you're both at 0, right? And so you only have 2% to give, both of you. And
Uh-huh.
so that's an important factor in realizing that like this career that you have all chosen to be in has an impact on that. And how can you show up for your partner and your family and all those things if you are constantly at a 2%?
Okay.
I,
So go ahead.
well, I think it leads to other issues, especially with spouses,
Mm-hmm.
because because I think they end up becoming jaded to a certain extent, maybe not quite as much as we are, but
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that they know that if they get the phone call,
Hmm.
Yep.
they're taking care of the family.
Yep.
And they know that's a very real possibility and they prepare for that. And then they don't really have time for people outside of our world
Yeah. Yeah.
that can't function that way. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like that, you know, they'll be like, I can't believe this person said this to me. Like, why are you not prepared for this? Like, you know, and I've been prepared for this for over 20 years. Why
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why this is happening. So it actually, I mean, it transfers a lot, not just, you know, not just maybe the, you know, if we have a bad critical incident or something, we come home. It's not just that, it's the overall length of time as
Mm-hmm.
well, you know,
That you're exposed to all this.
yeah, that they're exposed to it, you know.
Right.
And I think I think to an extent it can transfer to the kids, you
Right.
know, and everything else because, you know, I mean, they have a different outlook
Mm-hmm.
on things than most normal people or their friends
Yeah, I think that
have, you
what
know.
you're naming really is loneliness, right? There's a loneliness aspect to
Are
it
you
in the
lonely?
sense, no, and
Um,
for the partners, not necessarily for the first responders, not for your, but for the family members, it can be a lonely experience in the sense that the support they are the support system for this person, right? And who is their support system when that person's not around? Do they understand? Do they know what it feels like, right? Which is why I think it's important. I mean, I know a lot of the wives all become friends, and that's really important, right? We can build communities out of that. But I do think that that experience can be very lonely to have to sit around and be fearful of a phone call, right? To be on edge all the time. You don't know what to expect.
mhm.
So I know that their treatments are progressing every day, right?
Yes.
They're
Mm-hmm.
changing and they're improving. And um, one of the treatments that you talked about earlier was EMDR.
EMDR, correct.
Tell us about that. What is that?
That sounds like a rave.
Yeah.
No, that's MDMA.
Oh.
Yeah, my dad yesterday kept saying, "Was it MDMA?" I was like, "No, this one, not that. That's a whole different party." Yeah, no, this is EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and so really, it's big fancy words for healing trauma, right? That's really what our goal is in that. And I think a really good analogy to explain kind of how EMDR works is our minds are like filing cabinets. They have full filing systems, right? And so we have two parts of our brain. We have our cognitive conscious brain, and we have our emotional unconscious brain. And what happens is when we have a memory, positive, negative, any kind of memory, when we go to sleep, our brains start to file it away. Boo, doo, 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 doo. All to processes it, puts it away, puts it in the right boxes. But what happens when we experience a traumatic memory or a distressing event, that gets stuck in your emotional brain, in your unconscious brain. And I like to call it like your junk drawer of trauma, right? And so it gets kind of stuck in that junk drawer of trauma. It doesn't get fully processed, and it feels stuck. It gets stuck in your body, whatever way that looks like, and maybe through PTSD. And so what we do with EMDR is we use what's called bilateral stimulation, another big fancy word, which is basically using the left and right side of your brain. We use tapping. There's all kinds of things we can do for bilateral stimulation. Headphones with sounds going left and right, following a dot back and forth, holding some buzzers that buzz in your hand. There's a wide range of things that you can do. But basically what that does is it mimics REM sleep. And it helps us to
Fascinating.
talk. Yeah. So what we do is then we target the traumatic event as you're doing the bilateral stimulation, whatever that looks like, and we help process it. And it's fascinating to see how much it diminishes the distressing levels. So we'll often ask on a scale of, 0 being the least disturbing thing you've ever seen, 10 being the most disturbing thing you've ever seen. We are then measuring that throughout the processing stages to see if we can get you from a 10, let's say like you're 10, if you could think of a 10 to a 0. Sometimes they can't always get to a full 0, but we try and get them as low as possible. And research showed that when they first started doing EMDR, this woman, this woman one day decided it was like experiencing some distressing thoughts about some trauma, and then decided she's just going to move her eyes back and forth really quickly, and
Because
noticed
that's
that
what
she
I
felt
would do.
right. It was odd, and she was not a therapist. I think she was a journalist, but Shapiro is her name. She realized that it made her feel less distressed. And so then thus began EMDR. It actually started as EMD. They didn't add the R till later. But they started doing a lot of research on it, and they did a bunch of research with two groups. One, the control group not doing EMDR, just doing CBT, of people with PTSD, and people doing EMDR. And what they found was the people with EMDR had like a significant amount of improvement in their symptoms, and the people who were doing just regular talk therapy were actually more distressed. They were more distressed than when they came in. And so then they actually ended up giving that group EMDR2. They came back 3 months later, and everything was still at those high levels of improvement, which is a fantastic thing. And there's been tons and tons of research. This started in the 80s, so lots of research.
So what would your message be to the people watching, first responders, family members, friends? What would you like to say if you could tell them anything? What would it be?
I think that healing, everybody deserves to feel healing. Everyone deserves to feel relief. And that gets to be whatever you want it to be, right? This world that I live in and I work in has created and developed so many research-backed interventions and techniques that can help bring relief, right? And that it is okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. We I know I can speak for myself. Like, I look forward to people coming in and saying, like, I'm finally ready to do this, and I'm scared, and it's okay, because I know that it's going to be okay for them, right? I come from a very person-centered mindset. So what that means is that I'm never going to assume anything about anybody who comes in my room, even every session, right? So I never have a plan. I never have a plan of what we're going to do or what we're going to talk about. You get to come in and kind of decide what that looks like for you, because you're the expert of your own life. And so I think just I don't know, to the world out there, the people listening, that it's okay to ask for help. I think that's the big thing.
So what about redirecting what you do? Like, like being first responders, right? Having
Mhm.
things outside the first responder realm.
Mm,
Um,
right.
in like hobbies and all these other things.
Yeah,
How
that's
how
super.
important is that?
Oh, it's super important. You can't have one identity, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think it's super important to have multiple identities. I mean, me myself, I'm sure I am a therapist. I have a lot of other identities that I hold, and I'm proud
Do,
of. And
do you want to share?
do you want me to share?
I don't care.
Yeah. I'll just say this. I'm a professional dancer outside of what I do. I'm also very involved in music and going to musical events and other big communities. And so I'm just it's important to have a layered range of things because you're going to get tired, you're going to get burnt out. I mean, on the quick talk bit of burnout, right? That's how you prevent it. Having hobbies, having things that fill your bucket. I always ask my
Cool.
clients, what fills your bucket this week? And sometimes they say it's lighting a candle and sometimes they say it's going for a run. It doesn't really matter. It what fills your bucket you need to be doing or you're going to become burned out.
All right. So let's switch gears here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I have a really serious question for you.
Okay, I'm going to believe that that's true.
Now you're in the same boat I'm in.
When he leads up with, I have a real serious question. Like, this is going to be the silliest question he's asked all day.
These are
Okay.
these are
Probably.
these are things that pop into my head as I'm sitting here and my gears are turning. Kind of
Uh-huh.
like I like, that look of everybody's thinking that you're pondering something deeply, and I'm thinking tater tots or hash browns for
Mm,
breakfast, right?
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, those intrusive thoughts, right? Squirrel.
Those
Uh-huh.
squirrel.
Oh, yeah.
So if you had to pick a job, a profession, okay, who do you think would survive a zombie apocalypse?
I mean, I think that's kind of a guarantee, right? It's a good question.
And why?
I do think the first responders of the world are going to do the best. They have a lot, I mean, medical and like firefighters, police. I think all of you guys have a lot of skills that the majority of the population does not have. Um, and military as well. So, I mean, I guess I would say first responders. Do I think mental health counselors are going to be helpful? I don't think that we're going to be that helpful. We're all experiencing permanent trauma. I mean, maybe we can help regulate, but like, how can you regulate during a zombie apocalypse?
Well, but you got to
Right?
also understand the rules of zombieism, right? And that is they eat brains.
Uh
So several people in our profession will not
huh.
fare well,
I knew
Hey,
and
where that was
several
going.
people will.
Uh
hey,
huh. Yeah.
that means I'm
Yeah.
not a zombie target, so screw up.
I feel like we've had this conversation for like ever about zombie apocalypse, and I thought that the deal was always to like bunker up on top of a Costco or something. Uh,
Well, yeah, because you can never, I mean, dollar
Hey,
25 hot dogs. I mean,
that's where you
right, right. Well, they're free at that point.
oh,
that's
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 true.
when you need to know where like the private islands are in the Caribbean. You just sail your ass there and hang out until it's over.
Because everybody
Till
has a
it's over.
boat.
Like I don't know if that's
Hey,
is it ever going to be over?
you just got to
I
know
mean,
where they are.
I'm feeling triggered to COVID, guys. Let's. Is it ever going to be over? Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good question.
Okay, well, I know exactly who would not fare well.
Who?
I'm just gonna throw it out there. Lawyers.
They're gonna argue with the zombies and everyone
They're
else.
gonna argue with the zombies. No, they got a lot of brains. Oh, actually,
Objection.
surgeons, any of those people. I mean, there's some pitfalls to being smart.
Yeah.
Yes, I think okay, but if you ever watch those zombie shows, right? Like they always end up building these huge communities. I agree. I don't know how a lawyer would. I guess maybe if there's like conflict between people in the communities. Usually in zombie shows and movies, the zombies are actually like the least of everyone's worries. It's actually the other people. That's
Mhm.
usually always the problem is the other people, and I think that's true for our world now. I actually think that there will be a shift in the sense that we are going to be living in smaller commune societies where we have to like figure out how to survive more. But I also think all the same problems still will exist. So yeah, probably therapists are important. Lawyers might still be important. Pretty much everybody might still be important.
Look at her
That's
taking
true.
the high ground on
That's
this.
true. She did take the high ground.
She absolutely
Yeah.
took the high
Yeah, for
ground.
sure.
I
So,
For sure.
so,
think you
how?
should ask your lawyer friend about that one there, Dad.
Oh, I don't know if you know this story. So, um, that we had this conversation one day, and my lawyer friend, my
Mhm.
who's a very dear friend, has been for years. Over
Very good lawyer too.
yeah, very good lawyer. But he asked me a question, and we were I think we were out playing golf, at the time, which I don't play.
Yeah, I know you don't play
I
golf.
don't play
Yeah.
golf.
I've golfed with you.
I
I know.
do.
Oh.
I do. Never mind. I can't say it on the show. I guess I could, but I won't.
Okay.
But anyway, so we're at the golf course, and I think he got a text from somebody, and it might have been his wife, which I could see this happening. His
Uh-huh.
wife's saying, "Hey, we're having this discussion at her book group or something like that," and said, "Who would what would you do in a zombie apocalypse?" And he turns to me and he says, I got to give this, what would you do? And I said, well, that's easy. I'd feed him a lawyer.
I'm going to
That's
distract
funny.
him with you.
That's
So,
funny.
so, okay. So right now, given everything that we've just talked about, what would you like to ask for you?
Hmm. For me,
Now, don't go into, there's no crying on the shoulders. There's no crying in
I know there's no crying, dude. You're going to get all upset if people cry.
I
Yeah,
get,
see,
I
okay,
don't get, I don't
that's
get
a
upset. I
problem.
get
Wait,
really uncomfortable.
wait.
Whoa.
Yes, you getting uncomfortable,
Oh.
denial, avoidance, right? Crying is so okay, right? Like that's crying is so okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Not according to your
You,
dad.
you just threw me under a bus.
I
I
didn't
think you
mean
threw
to.
yourself under there, sir, but it's all right.
Yeah,
Sir.
yeah, yeah. You don't need anybody to throw you
Okay,
under the
go
bus.
ahead. Finish what you were going to
Um,
say. Finish one thought, please.
man, I don't know, dude. Like, I really don't. Like, I think like, I think overall, um, I think I've gotten better since I retired.
Yeah,
You
I would
know,
agree with that.
because I don't
Yeah.
have like the day-to-day stress anymore,
Or the re-traumatization. Yeah.
or that as well.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like I said, I think for me, it's the smaller things that get to me more than the bigger things.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
I mean, like realistically, I mean, you and I have been on a lot of the same calls, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
the same critical incidents and stuff like that. But like that, none of the stuff that we do compares with flying for me.
Mm.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I hate to fly. I have
Hmm.
to like when I get on the plane, I go immediately force myself to go to sleep.
Mm.
Really?
And then when we're coming in for a landing, force myself to go back to sleep
That's interesting. See, I cannot sleep on a flight.
because I just can't.
I got that wandering eye. I'm watching everything that's going
There's
on.
a lack of control in flying, right?
Well, there's that, but I also had some incidents in when I was in the military that
Got it.
kind of led to that aspect of
Hmm.
not having control and being airborne when something bad happens.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
I don't mind flying, but I can't being trapped in an airplane with
Mhm.
all these people 30,000 feet
Yeah.
above the ground, and then something pops off. I mean, I find myself in
Situational.
I find
Yeah.
myself, yeah, but I find myself in hyper vigilance.
Mm.
Right.
I'm scanning, I'm constantly watching what's going on. I mean, to the point that I'm probably the most suspicious person on the plane.
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
probably so. Yeah, I think, okay. I mean, you guys are both naming these experiences, right? And so, how uncomfortable is it to sit in that?
It sucks. I mean, it was
Sucks.
better when I went to airborne school because then I had a parachute and I could at least jump out that damn thing
Right.
if shit went bad. But like,
Yeah, but there's no guarantee.
Now, but what would it feel like? What would it feel like to try and process that and actually maybe get some relief from that? Now, what would that feel like?
I would probably feel better. But
Hmm.
Why would you?
yeah, I've been dealing with it for so long now. It's like whatever. You know what I
Actually,
mean? It's
I
one of
think
those
that's
things. Like,
an important thing as what you just said is actually so important in the mental health field. There's actually, I think, some parts of the reasons people don't go get help is because they're afraid to live without their trauma. Trauma is at the core is a survival instinct. It
Mhm.
exists to protect. That is what trauma does, right? Now, is it not, it's an uncomfortable experience. It doesn't feel good, but it exists because we once upon a time were caveman back in the day who, were hunting and surviving and all these things. And so our bodies have developed this way of protecting ourselves to prevent us from going into situations that are dangerous. Now it's our telltale signs, right? So when you're feeling triggered or traumatic, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling that, like whatever it is that goes on for you, that's purposeful. That's your body telling you that you're in danger. Now we live in a society where those things, you don't actually have to be feeling like you're in danger all the time. But some people get really scared of losing that instinct or that fear of not having that protection. So it actually can be quite hard for them to want to get help, to not have that, to not still to heal from that, right? There is that aspect. That's a huge aspect to consider.
Look at
No,
you.
it's kind of like giving up your, I don't know, sixth sense or the hinky
Yeah,
feeling you get,
Yeah,
or
those hinky
whatever,
bells that we always tell
the hinky bells
officers.
go off.
Don't
right.
ignore those hinky
Yeah,
bells because they're there for a
it's
reason.
kind of
They're
like
a pi-
might
they're a
might be
primal survival
yeah, it might be kind of
Yeah.
like giving
instinct.
that up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think so
But
too.
then there's also that fight or flight syndrome based on
Uh-huh.
that.
Oh, and that's related to trauma too, right? For sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah. Fight. There's actually four: fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
fawn,
Fawn.
Fawn. Yep.
fawn.
Fawn. Full scream, like fawn, like a deer. Fawn.
Oh. Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was like, I was
I
thinking,
wasn't
Because
I was thinking like, what was that?
like, you're not gonna hurt me, are
Fawning on me,
you?
over me.
yeah, those are the four. So yes, it can show up in other ways, right? I think that's important to note too.
Hmm.
So how do we push this forward? I mean, what do you, if you had to make recommendations right now, today, okay, and let's just say you had the power to do this, right? What should every agency, every law enforcement, fire department, medical, I mean, across the board, all the first responders, and I'm talking from nurses, I'm talking everybody, right? Within that umbrella, military,
Mhm.
everybody, right? Um, what is one thing you would like to see change?
Um, I think going back to kind of what we talked about in the beginning, I think just like normalizing mental health and making it feel like it's okay, right? I think it's been ingrained in your guys' systems, especially military, police, more specifically, to kind of like actually shove emotions away, right? Like you're actually trained to not feel emotions. You're actually trained to numb yourself, and sure, that's really helpful in the moment, right? While you're out in the field, it's necessary. It's compartmentalizing, but there's a level of unhealthy compartmentalization, and I've actually seen it in medical sides of things too. My own mother's a doctor, and I've seen her in ways where I've spoken to her about what's an unhealthy amount of compartmentalization, and so I think just normalizing that you're allowed to feel emotions and normalizing that it's okay to be upset by things or to feel pain or to feel fear or all of those things, like just normalizing emotion. I think now that's like the an act of God, it feels like, like that's to be able to do that. That's, I mean, I how we could do that logistically in this day and age, I'm not sure. Maybe that's having more mental health services provided that are quality mental health services provided within the workplace. And I think probably just normalizing and especially maybe for the leadership, right? Like leadership plays a huge role in your guys' field, and maybe leadership modeling that behavior, probably. So if leadership is modeling, hey, I'm going to go get mental health services, you're showing the
Oh,
younger generations of people that it's okay to do so.
what a fabulous idea on that. Leadership's actually leading,
Mm, yeah.
you know, mentoring. That'd be cool. So, well, this is such an important thing, and I love the fact that you came on and we've had this discussion, and you provided such great information because this is, all kidding aside, this is such a big issue within,
Mm-hmm.
society right now, and the first responder community and the military community, and um, things have got to get better, right? We have to do something to make things better.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had
Oh
to
yeah.
if you had to give a final statement, just a statement, what on this, on the importance or whatever, what is that? What is that statement?
You can't help others if unless you help yourself.
There you have it.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree. I love this.
absolutely.
So, this was such a great conversation. Hopefully you'll come back on, because
Yeah.
this is such a big topic with,
Hmm.
within the industries. And it's an important one, and it's one that we don't give enough attention, or at least media time, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, I think that these things are so important, and uh, I think that one of the last things I would say is, if you need help, get help. If you
Hmm.
think you don't need help, you do.
You probably need help.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I will proudly say I actually don't know majority of people, not just first responders, but majority of people I come across um, could use some form of mental health services at some point in their life. I can only think of maybe a handful of people in this world who couldn't. So it's a universal thing for not only people in this field, but I think for everyone, right? It's
hmm
Right.
important for everyone.
yeah, absolutely,
Well,
absolutely
awesome.
is.
And then, the thing is this is also a big focus within the ADB training nation.
Hmm.
Um, this is really big focus. There's a lot of good people there, very smart people that are doing everything from therapy to resilience, you know, um, physical fitness, that type of stuff, all geared towards making us better. So, thank you, Sarah. This is
Yeah,
this
thank
has been
you.
wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, folks, next week or next week. Wow. So on our next episode, we look forward to having more important conversations like this. All right. Until then, take care. Be safe.